Welcome, everyone. My name is David Stevens, also known as Laser Dave, to this next third Thursday. I'm joined today by Stefan, one of our creators and service managers from Austria, which will help answer some questions today regarding the topic we're going to cover, and that is Ruby. The Ruby software we did a launch seminar last in July, and this one is what's called Ruby Round 2, and it's exploring Trotec's new laser software. So what we're going to do today is we're going to cover basics, tips and tricks, a little bit about the basics, and then we're going to go into some of the more intermediate and advanced topics with this software involved. So let me go ahead and go to my screen here, and we'll get going on Ruby software. So Ruby Round 2, exploring Trotec's new laser software. Today we're going to cover some more advanced tips, tricks, techniques on how to use this software, how to get the software, how to incorporate it, how to benefit by that software. This software does use QR code links. If you're unfamiliar with QR code links, just turn your camera on your mobile phone, point that camera to the QR code, but don't take a photo, and a link will show on the screen. Select that link to get quick and easy access to web links, files, and videos that we will reference throughout this course. Trotec is, of course, a very social company. If you want to be kept up with current events, trainings, products, applications, laser materials, please scan the QR code and subscribe to your favorite social media platform. We are on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Pinterest, and Twitter. If you missed the last seminar, I do recommend that you take a look at that. It will give you the basics and the understanding. And this seminar is actually going to build from that original seminar. So if you want to scan this code, it's on our YouTube channel. You can definitely take a look at it and review it. Of course, this course will also be recorded and can be accessed at a later date, so you can go through both of them as needed. But here is the QR code. If you missed that first course, please scan that, go to that course and watch that course so that you are brought up to speed with the basics and understanding, as well as the overall process methods of exactly how to use Ruby, install Ruby, operate it with on your systems and your laser. If you have not got Ruby and you're just starting into this and want to look for it, here is a QR code. Feel free to go ahead and scan this QR code to go ahead and download it. The one thing I want to express here is that Ruby right now is free. We are offering it for free, but that is for a limited time. If you have not downloaded it and installed it by the November 30th, 2021, it will then become a charged software. So make certain that you scan this QR code if you want to download and activate it prior to this date. Ruby will currently work on any Speedy Series laser as well as an SP500 series. So if you have a Speedy Series laser and you are currently running it and you want if you want access to these new features and capabilities, then I suggest that you go ahead and download it. The nice and advantage aspect of Ruby is you do not have to stop using the job control software. If you're currently using job control software, you're comfortable with it, and you want to slowly incorporate yourself and learn Ruby, you can run them simultaneously. So you can go back and forth, find the benefits of Ruby, and as you learn it, so that there's no transitional time. It's not you don't have to stop job control immediately and start using Ruby. You can use them both at the same time as you go through and learn this software. Today's seminar is going to include several different topics. We're going to give just an overview of the Ruby screens, of what they do, how they are, a little bit of the basics, just kind of an overview, refresher course, if you will. We're going to do enhanced benefits of Ruby, some of the benefits that really set it apart from, say, job control and other methods of software out there. We're going to give you a basic summary of the drop-down menus. We're going to do an advanced tutorial, some of the features of the advanced manage screen. And then we're also going to go through and do an advanced tutorial of the design screen as well as the prepare screen. I'm also going to cover, which we did not cover in the last course, and that is how to modify material parameters and create new material parameters within Ruby. In addition, something that was not covered in the first course was how to use Vision with Ruby, how to calibrate it, how to set it up, as well as how to operate it with a finished project. We cover all that. And then lastly, of course, more content, more data of exactly where to get help through Ruby Help. And then finally, Stefan and I will conclude with your questions. If you have any questions throughout this course, please post them. We will go through those questions as they were posted. So if you have any questions, no big questions, no bad questions. There's no such thing as a bad question. Take advantage of this course, take advantage of our expertise, and definitely post that question. At the end of the course, Stefan and I will go through those questions and answer every single one that we have time for. So let's get started with just a basic Ruby walkthrough. Ruby, if you're not familiar with it, and this is the first time you're operating or getting a kind of an understanding of what it can do, Ruby is a seamless walkthrough. It is a completely different method of way a graphic or a laser software works. And so the way that it works is you basically have all your content and graphic designs as well as a prepare and produce screen all under one seamless workflow. So we have the manage screen, which includes all the existing jobs. And so you can bring in all your content, all your data, all your files, and it basically organizes and stores them on this screen. The design screen is like having a basic graphic design software built into the laser driver. So you can create design, edit designs, create them from scratch, modify existing designs, all within this software. The next one is, of course, the prepare screen. This is going to be very similar to job control. And the fact that you can target where you want it, you can duplicate objects. This is where you're going to add the material parameter. And then finally is the produce screen. This is basically like your queue or the server that is storing all the jobs that are on the laser ready to be processed. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and kind of show you just a basic overview of how this software works. And then we're going to go through some advanced tactics of each one of these screens. So here's a basic run through, just opening up the Ruby software and grabbing a screen from another computer. You can literally just drag a file onto the screen, snap it to the red pointer, which is going to show on the screen, and then select the material and then push start. The difference is Ruby does not use spoolers or Windows-based spoolers. And so the time that it takes to have a file running, I literally drag it onto Ruby or hit the import button, bring it in, tell it the material, push start, and that laser is running within seconds. And that's the advantage of Ruby. It gives you the ability to bypass all those issues and the setup issues and time issues to get a file running. The process time to set up a file or bring a file into Ruby and to get it running, if that file is ready to be cut, already sized, and don't need any editing, the time is literally, I've been able to actually have a file from my desktop running on the laser in 10 to 15 seconds. And that is the advantage of Ruby. So the speed of it, Trotec has always been an extremely fast, efficient laser system, but Ruby enhances the software side of it. And instead of spending large amounts of time waiting for Windows to spool out or send to the laser, those issues are no longer a problem. Ruby eliminates those issues by eliminating the Windows issues and Windows spoolers by allowing us to directly drop a file in and then send it to that laser. So there are a lot of enhanced benefits because of this. Because we're no longer required and bound by the rules of Windows, there are a lot of enhanced benefits. One, Ruby no longer requires specific colors or line thicknesses to keep the laser from seeing it as a cut path. So benefits like being able to run out of something as simple as Microsoft Word here. I can open up Microsoft Word, start typing, and yes, in the past I could send to the laser and it would engrave, but how about cut? So I could literally use the simple design tools in something as common as Microsoft Word, use their little shape tools here, draw an outline around it. And again, because Ruby no longer requires specific color requirements or line thickness requirements, it can be sent directly and be operational on Ruby within seconds. If the color is not quite right, Ruby will correct that and allow you to correct that very, very quickly. So all you have to do is hit save it as a PDF instead of a Word document, because a Word document is not a vector design. PDF, you can literally save as type PDF, hit save, and then now this file is now going to show up in the file. So I'll open up Ruby, select that PDF, hit open, and then that file will show up in our manage screen. Select that manage screen, and now it's going to be seen as a ready to go file. The red line is literally ready to go. If you don't, it's identified as line. You can set a different line thickness if you want here, but that is unnecessary. No matter what the thickness, as long as the color is right and red is identified as cut, then it will automatically cut with the laser. And the reason I demonstrate this is if you're using online design software and it generates a PDF or an SVG format, for example, which are two of the most common generic vector formats, as long as it'll generate one of those formats that are vector based, you can export it right from an online design software or a Microsoft Word or an Excel using the drawing tools as a PDF, bring it into Ruby, and now you've used the advanced techniques of, say, a word processor that would work great with fonts and typing and stuff, and then take it directly into Ruby to now process and cut that product out. Here's another example of multiple colors on an Adobe Illustrator file. So taking this design, which is literally 4 or 5 different colors here, and sending it to the Ruby as is very, very easy. And the nice thing is Ruby will accept Adobe Illustrator files directly. Adobe Illustrator files, all I'd have to do is hit File, Save it as an Adobe Illustrator file, just like you would normally save it right from your Adobe. And then I can go ahead and import that file directly. I can grab it from another screen and just drag it in. I can hit the import button. In this case, I have 2 screens and the file's on my desktop in a folder, and I just grabbed it out of that folder and then dragged it in. It then shows up into the screen, and when I select it, as you can see, all those colors come in. If I don't like those colors, or if I just want to engrave them, I can select all the outline or the inside colors by selecting the inside and then just clicking black, and now it'll engrave all those colors. I can click the outline and then click red, and now it's line. It doesn't matter if I change the thickness of this line, it will be seen as a cut path. So you can see this is a much thicker line than you would ever normally be able to do in job control. And at that point, I would just hit print or send to the laser or send to the prepare screen. And then in the prepare screen, I'm going to select the material that I want to run it on and then send it to the laser queue, push start on the laser after I focused, and then go ahead and let this laser go ahead and run it. It's going to see the black as the engraving setting, which is the set for, which is what I would set the color black for. And then as you can see there, I had no problem cutting out that material. So there's the finished result right there. So what this does is it gives us the ability to very, very quickly bring in, say, a clip art that was generated in one way. It can be multiple colors, and then Ruby allows you to very quickly make minor adjustments using the designs or the manage screen, from the manage screen into the design screen, making those edits, and then allow us to go ahead and process that material. Now, the Ruby drop-down menu, I'm going to go through a little bit of the menus here, and then we're going to go into the main screens, which is the manage, design, and prepare screen. Those are the main 3 screens that are going to have the most need for a little bit of technique and understanding what all the little features and buttons do, and we're going to cover all that. The first one is the drop-down menu. So if you first install it, the drop-down menu is very important. It's the 3 little lines in the corner here. If you see up here in the corner, the 3 little lines are going to basically give you a drop-down menu. Within this menu, you have all your different modes. You can go to the different screens from this menu as well, or you can click them on the top here. That does the same thing. Any one of these screens, when selected, it's going to, of course, go to that prepare, in this case, prepare screen. And then finally, the produce screen. So when you select it in here, and again, we can select it at the top as well. Now, the next one down here is, there's the final produce screen. The next one is going to be the materials list. So this is all your material parameters. And the material parameters are ideal because we can adjust them, we can select them, and we're going to get into that later. The next is, of course, user management. User management gives us the ability to actually add additional people and add people to the source. We went into that in depth last time. Preferences is nice. This is going to be where you would initially set up your Ruby software, your language, your units, features and accessories that you may have. And any one of these modes can be selected. If you have a vision camera, this is where you'd be turned it on. When you have source settings and when you're talking to the service department, they'll access some of these other materials or components. There's a help mode in here, and when you select a specific field, when you click help, it's going to allow you to kind of walk through and explain what each one of the different zones and fields are. So when you select the help, that help needs to be based on it's going to be based on what screen you're in. So select that. If you also have feedback, and this is something very important since Ruby is very new, feedback gives you the ability to go ahead and add and ask for new features or comment on existing features that are in Ruby. Knowledge base is nice here. Click on knowledge base. It's going to take you to rubyhelp.com. And so if you do have questions on any aspect of Ruby, day or night, that's the nice thing about a web-based training. It's always up to date and it's always being updated. Service file here. Service file is the, if you do have a service issue with a file or design, you can click the service file. It's going to automatically download a file. And then you can, of course, select that. And then you can email that to a service tech, and then they can actually replicate the graphic, the file, and all the parameters that you have in there. And finally, the last one is the manual selection here. Manual is the going to basically take you to the web page where all the manuals are for your laser system. So you need a reference on any aspect. You don't want to go find your flash drive or your disk that came with your laser system. Click on the manuals button. It's a quick link to all the different laser systems that Trotec currently makes. So now we're going to go through the Ruby managed screen, more of the advanced managed, or the managed screen, but more of an advanced tactic. Like I said, if you do want the basics of this, just the how-to of what that does and stuff, make sure to go through that original course that I covered in the beginning of this course. So scan that QR code and go through that, and I will explain all those different features, all these different features from a basic standpoint. So the managed screen is basically the first screen. This screen is designed to organize all your products. Now, or I'm sorry, all your graphics. So it's kind of like having a folder built into your laser software where all your graphic elements and components are. These aren't files that have been run on the laser, but they are typically files that are ready to be run, or components of files are going to be run. So by selecting the managed screen at the top of the screen, it's going to show up here, and then we can also select the jobs. So within the managed screen, we have our designs and we have our jobs. We can delete files from in here. We can select more than one object at a time. So if I want to select 2, 3, 4 different objects at once and then hit delete, you can delete all those designs if you want within here. You can also select them all and then export them out. It'll export them out. So if you have, say, another machine or a person that you want to send that file to, you can then, of course, send that. They can open it up in their Ruby software. We can also go into jobs, and jobs are nice because they're the files that have already been run. So I can drag them over to the laser, select on the laser, and instantly be running. So this is basically a list of the jobs that are already, they have a parameter and everything else. I can add a brand new design from here. So if I were to go into a new design, it's going to take me right into the design screen, and then I would hit save, and it's now going to show up in there. So I can also import jobs. So in this case, I can select a file and hit import. That file will then show up in here. I can drag files from another screen and drag it into there, and it's also going to do that. I can also add tags to a job and hit save, go back to the screen, and it's going to show up on the tags here, which are searchable. In the top of the screen here, there are a search algorithm, so I can search for tags. I can search for names. And the nice thing about this is it's organized and searchable so that you can access any one of these jobs and use them for multiple screens. And the nice thing is the design screens files, or the files in the design screen, can both be used in the design screen. I'm sorry, the managed screen files designs can be used in the design screen and the prepare screen. So any one of these files are immediately going to go, if I select them, they're going to go into the design screen, which is the next one. And that design screen, you can then make edits, which we're going to cover a little bit. But in addition, if I'm in the prepare screen, which is the third screen, I can also select these designs and drag multiple in and make adjustments, which I will again show you later when I'm in those screens. So the design screen is taking advantage of the files that are in the managed screen. So if you have need for editing or modifying or adjusting an existing file, kind of like I just showed you with like the Adobe Illustrator one, make a quick adjustment to the file, maybe change the color so that they engrave all at the same one, or change an outline to a cut path, for example, like the cut color. This is what the design screen is used for. It basically is going to give you the ability to add shapes and lines and make changes to text, edit text, adjusting your size, delete components. There's a lot of cool features that I did not cover, like union, intersect, difference, and exclusion, which we're going to cover here today, as well as the ability to power clip into shapes. And so here are a few of those components that we did not cover last time. We covered the basic, what the design screen was and how to use it, how to draw circles and squares and add text and stuff like that, which are along the top of this screen. But we did not cover some of the features such as this. So this is the union tool. And the union tool, basically, if I have two objects that are selected like this, I can go up and I can actually select the union tool right here. And when I select that, it's basically going to union or put them together or weld them together. So it's a quick and easy tool to weld different objects together. You can then, of course, convert it to an outline if you would like over on the right side here, or you could fill it to whatever color you want and then assign that color to engrave, for example. So the union tool is basically a weld type like command that takes two objects and puts them together. The next is the intersection. Intersection is a little bit different. It allows you to kind of clip objects out. And so the way it works is a little more complicated because you can't just select them and then click the button at the top like I did on the union. So the way that works is basically I would select the first one and I would select the letter C on your keyboard. And what that's going to do when you select C is going to make dashed line. Then I would select both objects and now I would select the intersection tool here. And you'll see what that does. In essence, it's going to allow you to clip away an object. So if you want a pie chart, for example, or a triangle with a rounded corner, then it's going to give you that very quick and easy way to clip something apart. And that's what the intersection tool. The key is select the first object that you want to keep, the objects that you want, then hit the C key on your keyboard. C's in Charlie, and then select both, and then select the intersection button up above. The next is using similar tools, and that is the power clip features. And so if I select a tool and say bring in a photograph, or it doesn't have to be a photograph, this could be any design element, then I'm going to select that circle or shape, and then I'm going to hit the C key, just like we did before. And then I'm going to select both. And now I'm going to select the intersection button right here again. And what it's going to do is it's going to clip that photo out. And this, if I hit escape, that dashed line will go, and we've now clipped that object out. And this, of course, will work as well with vector objects, and so you can clip those away. But what I wanted to show you is that you can basically use the clipping mask to clip away photographs. Or if you wanted to put, say, a face inside of a piece of text, you draw the text, you drop it inside, hit the C key on the text, and then place it over the top of the photo and size it the way you want, and then hit the intersection tool, and it will drop that photo inside that text. And so this is a great tool if you want to be able to do that capability. The next is what's called difference. Difference tool is kind of the opposite of the intersection, to where what we'll do is we'll do the same thing. I'm going to select the square in this case, hit C, select them both. And this one I'm going to hit intersection. It's going to give me the opposite effect. So instead of clipping out that small little triangle, instead it took a bite out of it. And so we're basically pulling it out that way. So you have the ability to both clip away one and keep that component in between the two, or in this case, basically take a bite out of that original object to get that shape or whatever shape desired. Exclusion is the next, same type of process. Select the first one, hit the C key. And once you've selected that C key, it's going to give you that dashed line. Select both objects, go up and then click the last one here at the top, which is called the exclusion. And then when you select the exclusion, it's then going to go ahead and basically exclude out those different components. For some reason, my computer has frozen here. Let's try that again. So hit the C key, select both objects, and then select exclusion. There you go. That worked. And so basically, it's kind of the opposite of the other two. Instead of getting the one side or the other, we're now basically only removing the components that are overlapped. So that is the exclusion key. And again, those 4 tools are available up on the top there. Definitely use them as needed, depending on the type of graphic design that you're actually running. So this one is called outline scaling. The outline scaling tool at the top of the toolbar here is a nice feature. If you want to scale something up and down, and you want that line thickness to get larger as you get bigger, or stay the same, and that's what this tool is going to do. So by clicking at outline scaling, if I drag my graphic up here, as you can see, the graphic gets larger and the line gets larger. If the scaling is off, it's going to give you the benefit. So depending on if that's turned on or off, basically it'll scale the object. So now if I scale the object up, you can see there the graphic is much, much thicker. So if you turn the scaling on or off, it's going to basically scale that outline and give you a larger line as you go larger. If it's off, it will remain the same as you go larger or smaller. And then finally, zoom reset. A lot of you can use your mouse wheel, or you can use the little air or magnifying glasses at the top, or even type in at the top here the zoom. And so if I use the mouse wheel on my computer screen to zoom in and out, I can click this button right between, or basically the zoom at the very top here. And when I click that, it'll reset the zoom. So if you're in and out, or if you zoomed in and out, just click that button right at the top there, and it's going to zoom back to exactly where you were, basically zoom to default or 100%. So here's going to be an example project making different design element changes in the design screen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a basic design, and I'm going to select that design. From here, I'm going to make some changes. And so in this case, I don't want 2 cut lines, because it would cut the inside line and it would cut the outside lines. And so I'm going to select in the layers here, and I'm going to increase that line thickness, because I want to engrave that inside line to give myself a border. There we go. We went ahead and put in a material or line thickness, but I don't want it to cut. Even though it is a thicker red line, it would still cut, because line thickness is not an issue. So I'm going to select black, so it will be seen as an engraving path, and because the color black will engrave. Then I'm going to select the entire object, and then I'm going to mirror it. Mirroring it because I'm going to actually engrave it on the mirror. I can click the little lock in the upper right hand corner here and type in a different dimension, or I can scale it up and down manually. And then we always want to hit fit to design, because it's going to take that design as the size it is, and then create the job with that. So what I've done is created a thicker border outline. I've mirrored it, and then I have also sized it. And then we'll go ahead and send that to the laser. Select it to the red dot pointer. In this case, I'm going to select a material, and this is actually going to be on mirrored acrylic, which is engravable and cuttable. And we'll push that to the laser. Put a mirror in with face down, or with the backside facing up, and then we'll go ahead and hit start onto the material. And so the design screen has given me the ability to take this line that's being engraved right now and make it an engravable line by converting to a thicker line, as well as as well as making the cut outline, as well as mirroring it and sizing it. And then once I'm finished, of course, I just pull it out of the machine and flip it over. And now we have our mirrored finished piece of material. The nice thing about a mirror, it's basically opaque or transparent between it. You can paint it on the backside if you'd like. You produce different colors on the backside. But the laser literally can mirror it, size it, scale it, add the outline in this case, cut it out. And so I've taken an existing design, modified it from an Adobe Illustrator file, the original file, mirrored it so that it's engraved from the back side, sized it and scaled it so that it's a little smaller than I needed, and then went ahead and sent it to the laser. So that's what the design screen really does for you. It gives you the ability to make quick adjustments. You're not going back and forth through your design software. If you do want advanced capabilities, our design screen is still not going to offer a lot of those very, very advanced features. If you're doing a lot of segmentation or line or original drawings or clipping and masking and stuff like that, or grouping and ungrouping, the design screen is not going to give you a lot of those features. But if you do take existing jobs that really don't need a lot of adjustment, there's no need to go into the design software or your advanced design software like CorelDRAW or Illustrator and make those adjustments every time you may need to make a minor change. So from creating something from scratch to making adjustments, that's what the design screen is going to do for you. The prepare screen is basically like job control. So this is the screen that the laser is seeing. It's a representation of the field from your laser. These are the files that are being run on the laser. So wherever it's placed on this screen is where it's going to run on the field. This is where you add the material parameters to the laser for the laser that is being selected to the machine. So basically this is your print preview screen, if you will. But the nice thing about the prepare screen is it also gives you some design elements and capabilities. And so I'm going to go through a project here and kind of show you start to finish of just using a file directly from there, from the prepare screen. Now, the prepare screen is nice because you can design files from scratch there as well. And that's what we're going to do here. So what I've done is I've got a nice file. I'm going to go ahead and put a piece of purple acrylic, matte acrylic into the machine. I'm going to place my focus head over onto the corner of the machine, and I'm going to focus onto that material. So now the laser machine is ready to go. And I'm going to go directly into the prepare screen. And when I select the prepare screen, there's going to be nothing on it because I haven't done anything. But in this time, I can grab you have the jobs and you have the designs. I'm going to select on my designs, and I can click any one of these designs, which is nice. And then I can just click the little arrows on the right side here. So if I want an element that was in the design screen, I can just click it in here. And the nice thing about this is that maybe I want to cut this out, but maybe I want to add the Trotec logo here. So let's put the Trotec logo in the center, and there's a snapping command at the top. It'll automatically snap. I want to cut out an outline box. Let's just do it off the side here. We can come over to the right and add dimensions. So this screen does give quite a bit of control. I will then go back, select the selection tool, and then snapping again turned on. And I've now taken 3 different components, 2 different designs and a drawn component, and then we're going to go ahead and snap it to where the red dot pointer is. If you ever hit Control C and Control V for copy and paste, and since there's an overlap here, I'm going to select skip overlapping cut line. So the laser does not cut that line. There's a nice convenient push button here to save that, so you're saving material. Type in the type of material, which is Troglass, push to the laser, shut the lid, and since it's already focused and ready to go on this machine, we'll go ahead and push start. And then the laser will go ahead and process that material. So I'm able to basically take that design, take 2 different elements that were in my design screen. You can size them and scale them as needed, center them all together, add a cut line, tell the laser system to ignore that overlapping cut line. So as you see there, it only cut the one line that linked these 2 products together. And we've got our finished product. So very, very quickly and very powerful to be able to do that. The other thing is the ability to just quickly duplicate by Control C, Control V. Now, if you don't remember the quick keys in any one of these, just hit the question mark or shift question mark to access the question mark over to the screens, which I'll show you a bit later. The question mark is going to tell you all the quick keys or the keys that are quick keys or the positional keys that are available on each one of those screens. Now, if you do have a product on the screen, so like with the one before, and maybe we want to adjust material parameters on the screen. So lately, all I've been doing is selecting a preset. Well, if you want something slightly different onto a piece of material, so say I select cherry, but I want to engrave this deeper than the preset, and I want to make adjustments. Now, you can do that just by selecting the color you want to make adjustment. So if I want to go a little deeper, I'm going to take this from 60 to 40% speed. Slowing down it. I can adjust my air assist, my Z-axis, my modes. I can turn different modes on here. And if I've made that change, I can then click the little up arrow, and then I can make the change on the other colors. I can also disengage. The color mark, or the mark is not being used, which is the blue line here, or I can disengage a color. So this is going to be the little check marks that will skip your colors. You'll notice they'll go gray in this case. Skipping a color, the laser it'll show on the screen, but nothing will process. If I hit again the drop-down menu on the color red, maybe I want to adjust the speed here and make it a little bit faster because I'm cutting thinner material. I adjusted that speed up, and then now it is ready. So you'll see a little asterisk down the bottom there, and that's going to basically say that we've made a change. And when I send it to the queue, it's going to say the date has been modified. If I hit no, it's going to send this file directly to the queue at that setting. Now, if I want to keep these settings, then I can hit store and I can overwrite the existing setting, or I can create an as new. So it'll basically, if I click on as new right here, what's going to happen is it's going to make a duplicate of that setting, and then the name at the top will say new. And you can go into that name at a later date and rename it, maybe deep setting or whatever you want to call it. And that is the benefit. Now, if you want to engrave a different color, for example, or maybe I engraved the color black, or adjust the different color black, or maybe I'm doing something else, I can adjust what it's for. I can unassign it here. This is also where I would have the ability to change the color to camera registration. So if I clicked on print and cut at the top here, and then click on the color black, as long as that button at the top is turned on, now print and cut's going to show up. So if the registration marks are that color, I can turn that on in here. But this is where adjustments are stated. This is also if I were to send it to the queue and it didn't engrave all the way deep enough and I needed to hit it again, I come back in here, I then click and turn off the color red. And then I go and click queue again. Now it'll only engrave the color black. And if you adjust the settings again in here and then click on queue or push to laser, it'll then adjust to that new power setting. And so you can hit multiple file, or you can hit your file multiple times if you'd like. You can skip colors. You can run them again. If I engraved a nice and I cut through, but I found it didn't quite cut through, as long as I didn't move the product, I come back into here, skip the black, and then hit start again, and it'll just do the cut line, giving you a second cut. Because once you send it to the queue, there's no adjustments, no editing at that point. Now, that's just modifying existing parameters within the prepare screen. Now, creating a new material parameter from scratch is also possible, or modifying an existing material. So I can modify existing materials that I am not currently working on, or I can create new ones by simply going back up to this select menu. And I showed you earlier under materials, there's all kinds of, this is all your preset materials right here. I can search for those materials. So if I type wood, it's just going to give me a list all of woods on the screen here. If I select one, it's going to show me all the parameters for that material. If I want to add additional effects to this, I click the effects list here. These are preset effects lists. When I select one, I can then go ahead and assign a new color, and then that color I can assign a different power, speed, frequency. I can tell the source of laser. There's an advanced drop-down menu here that's going to give me the ability to make adjustments. If these effects don't meet what I want, I can click the plus here and add a new effect. So I'm going to make one called deep engraved, and then when I go in, I'm assigning a power setting, power, speed. This does, of course, take some trial and error to make sure your settings are right. But this allows you to go in and adjust any of the 16 different available colors. There I did it basically high power, low speed, multiple passes, and I'm going to add I'm going to basically add one of the little tags here that identify that is. If you don't like one of the settings that are in there, you can click the three little buttons over on the right and delete it. Once you've made all the changes, hit save. Now, if you want to add a new material or import a material from your job control, this is where you would do it. If you click on add new, just click the little pencil, type in your name. Here's onyx stone. It's definitely not going to be on the list. It's just going to give me a basic setting here. I'm going to make some adjustments. I'm going to delete the cut because we can't cut stone. I'm going to call it stone on the tag, and we're ready to go. If I hit save and then go into my prepare screen here, and then open up a file, and then select material, you'll see the latest one that I just created is going to be shown on that screen. You can adjust settings here as well. Click it to queue, or I can click on the materials database here, hit yes to save changes, and say I want to add a mark setting. Well, there's already a kind of a preset mark setting here. Let's go ahead and click plus here, and let's make a blue mark setting. So it's a vector mark, it's not cutting through. Assign some settings, hit save, and then go back into the prepare screen. Now, I can't mark something that I don't have, and so let's go ahead and create a mark setting. Well, it's now the color red. So now if I select that color red and click it to the mark, it's immediately going to assign that color red to the blue setting that I created earlier. And so it gives me the ability to make all these changes. And then I can, of course, send that to the queue. File is now ready to run. So this gives me lots of different settings, different adjustments, and abilities within that setting. I can adjust the settings. I can add existing settings. I can do my own custom effects list. I can use any of the presets on there by adding materials. You can also arrange order of the colors in there, but it gives you the ability to adjust power and speeds and settings. Now, if you're not an advanced user, I probably wouldn't recommend that. Presets are nice, maybe even dabble with minor adjustments to the existing settings. Making new settings does require some advanced capabilities and also some testing. Never assume that I'm just putting in a power setting and knowing that setting is. I want to, of course, run a quick test on it. And then, of course, when I make an adjustment or I run a test, I hit save as new or override the existing setting after I've done some tests. Once it's overrided, it is now set and it stays that way unless you override it in the future. If you're not sure if a new setting is going to work, create a new setting. Make sure it's a duplicate of the existing one so your original settings are not lost. So print and cut is the next. This is something we didn't cover in the first course. Print and cut is, of course, very available on the Ruby software, and it has become more and more popular over the years, having so many different types of printing technology out there, and that ability um, to print something on a piece of material and then send it into the laser and then have that perfect edgeless cut. It's very, very alluring. It's also very profitable. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you two different processes here. There's the first time that you set it up. I'm going to go through the camera calibration here, and then I'm going to also show you the process of designing or setting a file to the laser from the get-go. So for camera calibration, the first time that you are set up, you want to install the camera, consult your manual to install the camera depending on the model you have. And then once that camera is set up and on your machine and your machine is turned on, we're then going to go into the menu screen. We're going to click on settings. And we're going to go down to the bottom here and we're going to click on Vision Camera. When you click that, you want to immediately hit save and then save and yet hit yes to the save changes. Now I'm going to place a piece of copy paper, just white standard copy paper, into the laser, and I'm going to move the focus head with the camera on over the top of that camera, just somewhere. I like to put a tape around the rest of the vacuum table. This way the copy paper doesn't flop away if you have that. Then, sorry, we got some pixelation here. We will adjust under here, back into the screen. I'm going to adjust the power and the velocity for that setting. And then I'm going to click Q calibration job. What this is going to do is going to send a job directly to the produce screen. I will then select the produce screen. And then I will go ahead and hit start on the laser. What's going to happen is the laser is going to immediately start running, and it's going to run a quick little calibration mode. And that calibration mode is basically going to do that. And then you need to manually adjust the head because we're also compensating for the offset. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move using the cursor screen keys on your laser system, and I'm going to move the head into where I see it on the screen. So you can see the three little holes that were going to be cut. And then once that accepts and everything's in the green, we'll just hit the accept key in the lower right-hand corner of your computer. Or if you have the touch screen on the Ruby on the side, just hit the accept there, and everything is done. There's no manual calibration. There's no adjustments. There's no putting in numbers or anything. And then the queue is going to show empty, and we are now calibrated. So in essence, we're placing the camera on. We are placing it over the top of a piece of copy paper. We're going into our drop-down menu, and then we are selecting the camera. We are putting in power and speed, and I just put in 10% power, 1% speed, and then it immediately goes to Q. Push start, let it run its three little cuts, and then we're going to move the cursor to where it's on shows on your screen, and then if it gives you all green, you'll hit apply and you're done. This is calibrated. We do recommend going through this process once or twice a month if you're doing camera calibration all the time, or if you don't use it each time. I would go through this process. If you say you go 4-6 months before to do it, I would run this process each time you run if it's been that long between. This makes sure everything is queued up and calibrated. Now, the next is once that's finished, we now have our ready to go file, or we are now ready to go for print and cut. If you're not familiar with how to set up a print and cut file, I have a online file or video exactly showing you how to do that. We're not going to cover that today, but if you want to scan this QR code, it'll walk you through the process of generating a matching overlapping print/cut file using different pages or layers, and then each layer is sent to one to the printer, one to the laser, so that we can do our final cut product. And this little dog project is the one we're going to do here. So let's go ahead and do that. So once the file is designed and on your design screen, so this is the actual CorelDRAW that I use to design this file. It's got the offset, it's got all the cut lines on it. And you notice at the bottom of the screen here, I have 3 files. I have a master file, I have a print file, and I have a cut file. So the first one I'm going to do is I'm going to select my print file. I'm going to go to just my printer, and I'm going to send it to the printer for print. Take my piece of paper out of the machine, and then I'm going to adhere this piece of paper directly to a piece of hardened acrylic. Then I'm going to go to my cut file, and then once the cut file layer is selected, I'm going to then just click my PDF button, which will generate a PDF, and I'm going to save that into my Ruby folder. Now let's go ahead and place the piece of acrylic that has the adhered piece of paper onto it into my laser system. And now I'm going to use the cursor or the onboard controls of the laser to just get close to one of the first registration points. So this is a lot like job control in the way that it works. Then I'm going to select my file that I saved from CorelDRAW. It's going to show up in my manage screen. At this point, there's nothing I need to do. We'll just hit create job, or you can bring it directly into your prepare screen at this point. And then I'm going to just grab that first registration point where the red dot pointer is, and I'm going to select it and then snap it to that spot or close to it. So it's now ready to go. I now need to turn on camera registration. Or select the material first in this case. Let's go ahead and select the material I'm going to process. I have one already set for print and cut. If you do not, you want to click print and cut on there, and then make sure the black color is, click on the black color and assign it to print and cut, because the black is identified as cut. And then we have several different modes right here, and we're going to be using nonlinear. Nonlinear is the default and the one we recommend you keep on at all times unless you're an advanced user. Then we'll go ahead and just push start on the laser, and then we'll go ahead and cut this project out. The laser is going to find each of the registration points here actively. Once it finds that cutout, it's going to size, scale, skew, and rotate the graphic to give you that perfect cut each time. So this is what the camera registration does for you. It gives us the ability to find that outline. In this case, I have no bleed whatsoever, because this is a simple little puzzle with an outline frame around it. And so this is an ideal solution. The camera registration is set up. The key really in this case is understanding how to calibrate it. And so there you go. I've got a simple little puzzle, little time lapse to put it back together here to show the process. And basically all I did is adhere a piece of paper onto a piece of acrylic and then cut it out on the laser. Of course, you could cut the paper out. You could cut any material. Or if you've got a laser or a printer that prints onto directly onto acrylic, that's even better, of course. But it doesn't really matter. This process is the same. The other true advantage of Ruby is the rotary attachments. I'm not going to cover it because we covered it in depth, and I also have an online video that goes through the entire process from installing the rotary in the machine all the way through running through Ruby if you want to go through that process. I really think that the Ruby software is by far the most efficient means to run a rotary ever conceived, and not just in the on Trotec laser, but anywhere in the industry. It offers the ability to add shadows to identify how the rotation is going to happen, a 3D virtual simulation of how it's going to wrap around the product, the ability to engrave beyond 360 degrees. So, the sample I show here engraves at something like 480 degrees around an object, so it can continue to wrap around. So an incredibly powerful tool. If you're not familiar with how the Ruby works with the rotary, I suggest you definitely watch this video so you can really be amazed on how powerful of a tool this software is for running the rotary. Now, Ruby help and feedback is also very needed at this point, especially when so many people are adopting this software. There are a lot of different helps. And in each one of the screens, make sure to hit the question mark on the screen, any one of the screens. If you click on the question mark and then go into a different screen, hit the question mark, it's going to pop up your shortcut keyboard or your keyboard shortcuts. These are all the things that can happen to Ruby on that screen depending on what's available. So go ahead and click the question mark, and it's going to show you all those different keyboard shortcuts. If you're not familiar with how to move and how to delete and how to add markers and duplicate and stuff like that, this is how you're going to get to that knowledge. And so make sure you understand each one of the separate screens have the ability to show you what those shortcuts are. Just remember the question mark for the screen and then go ahead and click it. Depending on the keyboard, you may have to hit shift question mark. I know European keyboards, you don't have to do that, but American ones, you have to hold the shift key. Now, the ability also to go to feedback. And so if you have any questions or concerns or not support confirms, there's a Trotec feedback form here. This is going to give you the ability to go ahead and launch questions, or not necessarily questions, but feedback on things that you may want in Ruby. Ruby is going to continuously evolve and grow. And if you share your feedback as an operator or a person that is running lasers, you have insights that may exceed that of what we have anticipated. So if you've got something, say, maybe I want to add guidelines to the prepare screen, which is one I recently added, very, very popular request, go ahead and put it in here. Never assume that somebody has posted it already. And the more people that, of course, post these, you'll find these features start to be added to future versions and future capabilities. Please note that this is not a support screen. There's another one for support if you do have questions and stuff like that, or just want to have a question answered about Ruby. That's not what this screen is for. This is so that you can help the future progress as an operator, as a laser user. If features aren't intuitive to you, if you want to see added features and abilities within the software, definitely go in and do this out. All it requires is a simple sentence of what you want. Try to be as detailed as possible, because the more detail you can give, the better. If there's even files you need to attach or images or visuals that were helpful, you can attach files here, put in your email address, and then hit share feedback. Definitely take advantage of this. It is still early in the software, so the more feedback they get and the more consistent feedback they get, especially for common responses, will definitely be taken seriously and potentially added to future versions. Now, of course, rubyhelp.com. I showed you earlier. You can go on. There's the drop-down menu at the top within the actual Ruby. You can also just go directly to the website, or you can scan this QR code beyond the seminar. This is constantly evolving. It's not like an old manual that came with your laser system and you have to download the manual, or if you have to pull it off a flash drive or a disk. This is constantly being upgraded or updated. There is a button in there to contact support or service. Also, you can go into the feedback section in this website as well if you have feedback for new features or feedback on the software itself. But if it's 3 a.m. or if it's off hours or something on a weekend and you have a question within the software, you'll find that most of those basic questions will be added. More advanced features, techniques, capabilities, and questions are constantly being added to this software, but take advantage of it. And the fact that it is always active, if it's not there one day, keep an eye out, because most likely it's not. If it is something you just don't see or don't have questions, search for it or contact support. And then those features that are asked more often will always, of course, be added to this rubyhelp.com. Now, again, here's the download for the software. Again, it's free up until November 30th, so take advantage of that. If you have a speedy laser system or an SP500, download this software and get it active. So go ahead and active. Like I said before, you do not have to stop using job control. You can use them simultaneously. You can't run them at the exact same time. There's a little button at the bottom of the screen that'll say, which one are you using? Are you using Ruby today or are you using job control? So you can select back and forth. And so this allows you to migrate your knowledge base between the two softwares. If there's features in job control, you can save your parameters from job control, export them, and import them into Ruby. So if you've got a lot of preset materials, there's no need to worry about the fact that those parameters are set on your job control. They're going to be able to easily be migrated into Ruby. But take advantage of it. It will be free after up until November 30th, 2021. So download it. and activate it. Don't just download it. Doesn't help you if it's just downloaded. All right, that is it for the seminar here. Let's go ahead and cut out of the screen, and I'm going to be joined here by Stefan.
Hello and welcome, everyone.
Welcome. Thank you, Stefan, for joining me today.
It's a pleasure to be here. Nice to see you again, Dave, and nice to see a lot of people I know from the last webinars. I saw that there are some inputs in the chat already. So yeah, I'm really excited to be here. Hello from Austria.
Well, I appreciate you staying up late for us all. I know that it's probably late there because of the time zones. Stefan is, of course, the expert in Ruby. I mean, when I have questions, this is the guy who I ask. And trust me, I ask questions. And so now is the time to really spend with myself and with Stefan to answer those questions that you may have, and we'll do our best to go ahead and answer those questions. So let's get going with any of your questions here.
Yes.
All right, Jennifer says, we're having issues getting the fancier cursive fonts into Ruby to show up when we do the text feature. They show up small, but as soon as we enlarge them, the font changes to basic. That's an interesting little glitch. I haven't come across that, Jennifer. Maybe Stefan has some feedback that he can help you with this on this.
Yeah, Jennifer, actually, I just tested it here parallel when I saw your input already, and I could not reproduce the same issue. So whenever I have a curved italic or any fancy fonts, it should be the same font, no matter how you scale it, directly in the software by drag and dropping. The only thing that can happen if you have an italic or a fancy font and you want to change it, you want to exchange a letter because there was a spelling mistake, it quickly jumps back to Arial to have it better readable. But as soon as you click out of it, your fancy font is still there. If you still face this issue, would be great that you approach your local support team, maybe with an example, so we can check that here and improve the software.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing is, I mean, it could be that it's a very obscure font too. Make sure you try it with other fonts. If it is consistent, then let us know as well. I've had some strange things happen with some very obscure fonts that are out there with any graphic software.
Yeah.
What are the recommended computer specs for Ruby? Oh, this is a great one for you, Stefan. I mean, I would think pretty much any computer you could buy today would have no problem running Ruby, but I haven't actually looked at the specs or if we actually post them.
Exactly. So we just need very low computer requirements. So actually every computer that you have out there, every Windows computer running Windows 10 on it, is definitely capable to run Ruby. We need a 4 gig RAM, some space on the hard drive, so the program is not so big. The important thing is that your screen resolution is at least full high definition, which we recommend it. If you have a smaller screen, if you have a different scaling on your web browser, you might not see all the different elements. So also make sure that the scaling, there is always a scaling factor in Windows, is turned to 100%, and sometimes it's recommended to 150. But by that, Windows 10, I think, is the most important topic because we support the latest operation systems. If we talk about other specifications, we do not have the setup for the Mac devices, actually. So these devices are supported as soon as you have a run on Ruby system, like the super nice fancy Speedy 400 from Dave with the touch display that you saw, because in there we have Ruby already installed. So you can take any computer that you have, just connect to this Ruby server in the machine with a simple URL. So you don't have to install anything on your separate device. It's just by a URL and you're ready to go. That works with Windows, Mac, and so on.
Yeah, you can also add, you can also share from your Windows PC that's plugged into your laser to a Mac system, which is what I do here. So if I have a Mac, but the minimum requirements are really not. The biggest issue that I have come across, as Stefan mentioned, is screen resolution. Those little tiny laptops running very low resolution is the only time we really come into problem. When it comes to performance, memory, and stuff like that, that's really not something that is an issue these days.
Exactly. Also from the hard drive memory, we are compressing the files, your designs, even if you have big complex files, we're compressing them very good in this Ruby file formats. So there should not be any specific need or
so much faster than
extraordinary.
job control. It's so much faster.
Sure. Good.
Is the personal data database salvageable as before in job control? Personal database, yes, of course. As I mentioned, any of your personal job control parameters that you set up. I think you're talking about parameters, or if you're talking about the actual like pages or setups on job control. But the parameters, definitely any of those personal database type settings are available, can be migrated over to Ruby with no problem.
Yes, and everything that is in Ruby can also be saved, let's say backuped, yeah? So we don't have a right folder, so there's just a big database that collects everything. But if you would like to simply select different jobs, or maybe all your jobs, as Dave showed before, in the manage screen, you can switch between the designs and the jobs, select all or one, and just export it. This will be exported in a zip folder that can be then uploaded again to any Ruby, or if you switch to a separate installation. And the same thing, of course, with your material database that you create in Ruby. There is also an export functionality for single or the whole database.
Yeah, that was something I learned from you the other day, is that you can have 50 files zipped up, and you can just drag that directly into Ruby. It won't only unzip them, but it'll take all those files and put them right into your manage screen. You're done. You don't even have to unzip the files. That's a great
nice
feature. Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
Where would we add inner geometries cut first in Ruby? That is based in your material parameter setting, under the actual parameter set, just like it would be in job control. You would identify it. So under the color, go ahead. Am I wrong?
If I
Go
may
ahead.
jump in, yes,
Yeah, please.
it's a little different position. In the material database, you can choose between bottom up and top down, the engraving direction. Yeah, but actually the inner geometries first is selected on the last page on the prepare screen, right next to where you select also the compensation mode for the vision, and where you can select a common line cutting. I think we showed it in the first webinar, right?
That's right.
And
yeah, you're right.
And there is a small icon next to it. It's a square dashed line with a circle in the middle.
It's
That's
right at the top right-hand corner, right?
Top right corner, right next to. Do you have a chance to show it, Dave?
Oh, I don't have my Ruby screen up.
Okay. It's actually right underneath push to laser. You have there a small icon, dashed line with a circle, and there you activate and deactivate inner geometries first when you send the job to the queue.
Ruby requires you to place registration dots in different than the job control. Is Ruby going to require you to change all of the design files or somehow accommodate these in the future? Definitely something that I have. I've had a lot of questions on this, but what they're saying is basically, right now you can't do job control vision registration points within the actual graphic itself. It has to be outside of the graphic, is what we've been informed.
That's fixed with the actual update.
Oh, it did get fixed. Okay.
Yeah. So if you run a very early version of Ruby, so if you were switching to Ruby with the July update already, we brought an update in August. I hope that you saw the update coming up in your software. Otherwise, just go to the ruby.troteclaser.com webpage or to the QR code that they've presented before and download the latest version. Just install over your actual version and you have the improved functionality of Ruby. And you can definitely use all your jobs or your registration point positions like you had it in job control now with Ruby, as long as your compensation mode is selected to full nonlinear, like you would have done it in job control.
Great. I didn't even know that. That's great news.
So no limitations on that one.
Good. So yeah, answered and solved, all in one project. This is why we have you here, Stefan. All right, next question. I have issues with my vision camera. The camera doesn't automatically shift over to check the registration circles. It gives me an error code every time I try. This is most likely has to do with the calibration process. Maybe Stefan can kind of elaborate on it. That's why I wanted to cover that calibration process. Maybe you can go back to the video I just showed you and make sure you run through that calibration process correctly. If it isn't calibrated properly, this is the error that you're going to get.
Yeah, actually, it would be interesting what error code that you get exactly, because different error codes could give different. Yeah, here we go. Vision camera focus. It was working perfectly fine.
It was working fine, and then it stopped all of a sudden. Oh, interesting.
It gives me pop-up that says machine layer issue, vision camera focus. That's a good question. First time I see it, it might be related to maybe not the last version of Ruby. So please make sure that you, as I just mentioned before, download the latest version and update it. If you still face the issue, please contact your local support team with a service file like Dave showed it before to create one, and we can analyze that and we can for sure assist. As I say, it's the first time I see it, so it must be something specific with some settings.
Yeah, I only had that early on, the earlier version, and I think a lot of people don't realize. Now, what's going to happen on the lower right-hand screen, you'll open up your computer and you may see a little pop-up that says, hey, do you want to update Ruby? Make sure you hit yes. It'll do everything behind the scenes. And then eventually, when you reboot your computer, you're going to have all the new features. And so make sure you hit yes. It's done behind the scenes. But if you don't update some of these new versions, especially being that Ruby is still pretty new, these new features will be added. The next update is due right at the end of the year here too in December, so that you'll have all the new features and updates and constantly be getting these new additions, bug fixes, or anything else that come up.
Exactly. Just make sure when you hit the update button and you confirm yes, after the update is finished, the computer restarts automatically. Yeah. If you would restart before it does it automatically, you might interrupt the setup and you might have to start the setup again.
Yeah, exactly. What does the error while processing the job data aborted stand for?
Well, it could have different reasons, depending on maybe there was a mechanical topic, a software related issue that it could not process some certain elements of your graphic that you have. If it happens all the time with the same job, we are very curious to see it, to analyze it, to fix and improve it, of course. If it's just once in a while, it might be related with some settings. Yeah. If you just want to run a job, make sure that you're always in focus. Yeah, that's a very important topic, that your table is always in the focus position. And beside that, it's a very generic error message that can have different reasons. We would have to look on the specific topic if that's possible.
Yeah, the one I come up with in this scenario was that when the job is done, I literally grab and open the screen before it literally finished, kind of behind the screen scenes. And so sometimes I'd get that error because I would open the lid too quickly. Even though the job was done, it wasn't finished processing behind the scenes. And so waiting another couple seconds to open your lid stopped any of those screens from popping up on me. So it could be as simple as that.
Yeah. Yes.
How do you do a second pass using Ruby? It never seems to work for us. The laser doesn't reset to the right position. Oh, I've not had any issue on resetting positions. I mean, there's two ways to do two passes. You can identify it in the parameter by telling it multiple passes on that color. Or, of course, if you resend it from your screen and then send it back to your final screen, it should reproduce exactly every single time. I did have an issue on an earlier beta version where that was the case, but the latest versions I've not come across that. Stefan, you come across this at all?
The only reason or the only situation where I could imagine that this happens is on the rotary, and especially when you have the reference position setting with the rotary set to 0, yeah. So the rotary actually always starts with the graphic with the facing up area. And when you have your reference, your homing position in the software set that it always goes to 0, the rotary will turn to some certain position. And when you hit play again, that you do a second pass, it will start again where it is. If you set the settings for the homing to go back to the start position, also the rotary will turn back to where it started the first graphic. And when you just hit the repeat button, it should do it on this exactly same position. If you face another issue, as Dave just said, please update to the latest version. If you still face it, we are very keen to see it and fix it.
Yeah, just let us know. Don't sit in there frustrated. Let us know. Click the support button, contact us, and then let us take a look at it. That's what the service file is for. We have lots of resources to make sure that we get these problems solved.
Yes. Also, that's the reason with this new software, we have so many possibilities why we really ask you for feedback, for new functions, for new features. We are very fast with developing. We're very fast with bug fixing. At the moment, we bring the next release in December. In the future, we will bring feature based releases maybe, so we will have a much faster improvement cycle. So everything that comes to your mind that you would like to see in Ruby that would make you more productive would be great that we get it, that we can import it. Yeah, from the beta version until now, there was so much progress, and that would not have been possible with all the people contributing, testing the software, giving us feedback to make it a very, very good and productive and powerful software.
How does this system connect with older speedy models? I'm older speedy, since I think you're referring to as the Ruby inside on the machines. The older speedy models still need a Windows-based computers plugged into it. Other than that, it would work the same way as job control. You'd plug in a USB and you would set it up that way. And when you install Ruby onto that computer, it would work the same way. The difference is you're just using the different software. There's no additional setups or hardware changes that would need to be done on older speedy systems.
Exactly. As we say, all speedies are supported, which are produced since 2004. So every Speedy 100 up to a Speedy 400 that you own is able to run with Ruby. The important topic is just that we update the firmware, the program which is on the machine, to the latest version. And therefore, if your machine is able to run the latest version of the firmware, it is also able to run Ruby. If you're in doubt, if your machine is capable, just contact your local support team. They will be happy to assist you and give you some insights on that.
Yeah, and a lot of the software is nice too, because our support team can take over your computer and help you install it if you are having troubles.
Sure.
Also, you can go to rubyhelp.com. There's a lot of videos that will walk you through on how to set it up, get it active, get yourself logged in, and that's set up as well. And also, of course, getting the firmware set up is something you want to make sure to do properly. Otherwise, it will not work. But like he said, should be no problem. We're working with those models.
Yeah. Exactly.
Can you show how to determine the version of Ruby you are running? Oh, that's a great question. Let's see if I actually have Ruby. I can set Ruby up.
That's actually a good one. As we're mentioning, what is the latest version? Are you running the latest version and so on? Simply open your Ruby, and in the URL that you see in the web browser, change the last section, delete it until you have the app dash, and just put in info and hit enter, and that brings you to a separate screen showing you the version. Yeah, that's for now. With the next update, it will be also in the main menu that you see it directly there. Up to now, you can always have a look about your version when you change your URL to the info screen. I'm not sure if we're able to do that now.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I need some reason it's not.
I will just post the URL that you have to enter, because you can just take this one. Maybe we can put it here.
There we go.
On the chat.
So I've got Ruby up on the screen.
Yeah.
So in essence, in order to do the versions right here,
you just delete what's there. If it's manage its design, you just delete the last section until the dash before the app.
Yep. So in this case, I would delete the word design.
Yes.
And then I would type info, I-N-F-O, and then hit enter.
And hit enter, and it drags you to a new screen. And in the third line, you have version, and there is your version number. And if you're running on 2.0.0.18223, that's the latest version. And then everything should work as we just explained.
Yes.
I also saw that the link now, that the URL that you can just copy out is already posted on the YouTube channel, I think.
Okay, good.
Great.
All right, that was a good question, and definitely one because a lot of people get that question. What version am I running? Where is it at? Yeah, you literally have to just delete that last line and type info, info, and it'll pop that screen up for you.
Yes.
All right. Well, I guess that was the last question. Easy peasy. Any questions? Definitely reach out. Myself, Stefan, the entire team is available for you on this. Adopt the Ruby, download it, get it active before November 30th so that you get it for free. And whether you use it now or you start using it as you evolve away from job control, make sure to take advantage of the free software while it's available. And let us know if you have any questions. Stefan, thank you so much for joining me today. And
thanks for having
everyone
me.
have a great day.
Yeah. Same from me. Hello from Austria. Goodbye to everyone.
Thank you.